Alright, welcome to today's video, and for today's topic we're going to be discussing one of my favorite cars of all time, the Shelby Cobra, which happens to be one of the most replicated, if not the most replicated car on the planet. And no wonder, right? The car is just absolutely beautiful and it's an extremely rare. And real ones are trading in the excess of 7 figures now. So that's just totally unobtainable for the general population, which is why the kit car scene has blown up for them. There are literally dozens of manufacturers out there producing Cobra kit cars or complete cars for you to buy and just drive. So if you've come to the realization that you want to have a Cobra, now you have to go ahead and sit down and decide what your goals are and what your budget is, because it can range wildly. You can build a car as cheap as $20,000, you can spend as much as $250,000 or even more. That's a huge bandwidth. And so you really have to sit down and decide what you want. For starters, do you want something that looks kind of like a Cobra, that just gives you the feel of that 60s iconic car? Or do you want something that's totally authentic down to the suspension and the wheels and stuff? These are huge factors that you need to go ahead and think about. The factory cars back in the day, they didn't have things like AC or radios, and those are things that you can add now, and there are a number of manufacturers that are offering these types of features on Cobra kit cars, but it's something that wasn't factory to the original car. And with being so many different manufacturers out there, there are a variety of different shapes. A lot of them look pretty close, but there are some that if you park them next to each other, you can tell right away that no, that's definitely, there's something wrong with that car. And so these are things you really need to think about. And one of the big dead giveaways for me, if I see a Cobra at an event, first thing I do is look at the wheels, because that is a huge giveaway. The factory Cobras had a center hub with a single knockoff. A lot of manufacturers that are producing kit cars offer a 4-lug or 5-lug wheel, and so that's a dead giveaway on whether a car is an actual Cobra or not. So you also need to think about your powertrain. Do you want a classic Ford V8 like the originals had, or do you want a modern Ford V8 or something else entirely like an LS motor? If it's something you want to be driving on a regular basis, you may want a modern engine in there that's more reliable and more efficient and has things like fuel injection on it. And do you want to have an overdrive transmission? The factory ones were a top loader 4-speed. Nowadays you can go ahead and put like a Tremec 5 or 6-speed in there, and you can go cruising down the highway at really low RPMs to make the drive that much more enjoyable. These are all factors you need to think about when deciding on what type of a Cobra you want to have in your life. And it's definitely a huge undertaking to go through and decide what you want in your Cobra. And then of course you have to decide whether you want to build the car or if you want to buy a done car. If you go on to buy a done car, do you want to buy a brand new one or a used one? And so if you're looking at building a kit, the most cost-effective one out there is Factory 5 Racing. Now, Factory 5 Racing says they're like the biggest Cobra builder kit manufacturer out there, and well, that's certainly true in the regards that they've done the most kits, but it's not necessarily the best one out there. You're gonna spend a lot of time doing bodywork on these kits, guaranteed. It's just the nature of the beast. The bodies are definitely not true to the originals. There are definitely differences. If it's by itself, not next to a real one, you're gonna be hard pressed to tell that it's not. For the most general population, the trained eye, they're gonna know right away, but it's a pretty complete kit. And one of the nice things about the Factory 5 kit is, and what they've been famous for, is you buy their kit and you buy a Fox body Mustang and you can take the two and build a car. So if you're really smart on your money and you're budgeting, you can build a Cobra kit car and do all the work yourself, of course, for $20,000 to $25,000. Now, is it easy to do it that cheap? Not necessarily. It requires you doing a lot of work yourself, a lot of labor, and sourcing parts used and things like that, but it can be done. And you can get a pretty good car out of it. But if you want something a little more authentic and you want to build it yourself, you can go with a company like ERA. They have one of the most accurate bodies out there from what I understand, and their kits are available and you go through and you can build those as accurate as you want. But if you go through and are putting like a 427 FE side oiler in one with the appropriate top loader and the knockoff wheels, you can easily spend $100,000 trying to make that car totally accurate. And then so that you really need to balance it out. But if you want a really solid car that has great performance and looks sharp, I mean, some of the best options out there are going to be like Superformance and Backdraft. Both these manufacturers offer cars that you can buy brand new, and you can go ahead and order them, get them taken care of, and you're ready to go. I don't think either company offers kits for you to build. I think you have to buy their rollers and then add the drivetrain to them. And they have dealers throughout the country, so you can buy ones that have already been built, and you can save some money that way actually. Because if you're going to order a brand new one from them, you can easily spend $90,000 or $100,000. Or if you buy one that's already been done, it's got a few thousand miles on it, you can get them as cheap as like 65 or even in the mid 50s as well. So it really just depends on that point on what your budget is and what you want to get out of the car. Superformance has been around for a lot of years. They make an amazing product. I've seen a lot of their cars out there, and they're really great cars. Same with Backdraft. They make a really great product. Now, for me though, I've gone back and forth on this a lot because I've always loved the Cobra, and I know that the Cobra is something that I'm going to have in my garage at one point. But I'm obviously not going to be spending probably $2-3 million for an original one. So for me though, I thought about building an ERA, but at the end of the day, I'd still like to be able to participate in Shelby events and be part of the Shelby Club. And to this day, you can order brand new, what they call a continuation Cobra from Shelby America. They offer them in both fiberglass bodies or aluminum bodies. And typically on the secondary market, they usually sell for about $130,000, $150,000 for a fiberglass one, and upwards of $250,000 for an aluminum bodied one. But that's one of the great things for me is I was planning on spending upwards of $100,000 to build an accurate ERA replica, or I could spend $130,000, $140,000 and get one that's actually got a CSX Shelby VIN number on it and be able to join the Shelby Club and participate in Shelby events. And for me, with my goals on what I want out of a Shelby Cobra, spending that extra money makes complete sense. Now, for a lot of people, that may not make sense, and that's why if you just want to have a most authentic replica, and you want to build it yourself, going with like an ERA is a great option to go, and you can save a fair amount of money over the continuation cars. Now, there's another company out there that makes great high quality cars. They offer aluminum ones, and it's Kirkham Automotive. They, I believe, produce the aluminum bodied Cobras for Shelby America for their continuation line, and they're beautiful cars, you can buy one of their cars for a lot less than buying a continuation car. But again, it's not a continuation car. You can't participate in the actual Shelby Club events. Now, there's another manufacturer out there that I'd like to give a special recognition to, and that's Emerson Motorsports. Now, what's unique about Emerson Motorsports is their Cobras are physically bigger than the original car. They've stretched them in lengthwise and widthwise, and what they've done for this is it allows for taller people to be able to have a Cobra, because if you get like a 6'5" individual you're not going to be able to fit into a Shelby Cobra. I mean, I'm 6 foot and it's tight for me in a Shelby Cobra. So these Emerson cars are bigger, and they've got modern drivetrains in them. A lot of them are running Ford 4.6 engines, and it's just a great alternative for the larger folks out there that want a Cobra and enjoy the Cobra but can't because of the general nature of the smaller car. Now, one of the other benefits to like a Factory 5 car is if you want to go racing, Factory 5 has their own race series. So if that's something that you're super interested in, you may want to consider building a Factory 5 car, because you've got an entire race series where you can be racing against other Factory 5 owners. I'm a little harder on Factory 5 racing and their kit cars. Personally, there's a lot of stuff to be desired that I see in there, especially when it comes to the shape of the body. Don't get me wrong, they're a great budget alternative. I mean, it looks pretty close, and you can build a car for a relatively minimal amount of money involved. But it's just not something that is generally the type of Cobra that I would be looking for. But that being said, they've recently come out with a new Daytona Coupe version, and everything I've seen and heard about that car, I'm really impressed with. In fact, so much so that one of these days I plan on building one of their Daytona kits, because the coupe just looks really sharp. I mean, I was there at SEMA when they unveiled it, and I was just really blown away. and you can have the options of running either an original small block Ford or even a modern 5.0 Coyote motor out of the current Mustangs. I mean, the options are endless, and it looks like a great product. A lot of people seem to be loving that kit. I know I'm loving the kit from what I'm seeing, and you could end up building a Daytona Coupe for under $60,000 for a really nice finished car. And comparatively speaking, an original Daytona Coupe, one of the 6 built, you're probably gonna spend north of $10 million for. So bang for the buck, it's a huge bargain. Plus they do make a continuation Daytona Coupe out there. I believe Superformance handles those for Shelby America, and those are typically somewhere between I think $250,000 and $400,000 depending on options and aluminum versus fiberglass body and things like that. But yeah, the Factory 5 Daytona Coupe, huge props to them on that one. They're roadsters, probably one of my least favorite, other than the fact that it's a budget-friendly alternative. So another thing to think about with Cobras when you're doing a replica is what type of Cobra do you want? So if you're not aware, there were various types of Cobras. There was the slab side 289 car and 260 car from the original. Then there was the 289 race car that had fender flares. And then there's the 427 street car. And then of course the ultimate, the 427 SC with the big wide fender flares and the big 427 FE side oiler engine in it. So you have to decide which one you want, because if you're looking for a specific type of body from a Cobra, that one may or may not be available, or it may be only a select few manufacturers offer that body style. Whereas like the 427 SC being so popular and the most iconic, that one's pretty readily available by almost all manufacturers of Cobra kit cars out there. So it's just something else you need to be taking into consideration. Also a thing to consideration is what type of suspension brakes do you want? Do you want something that's accurate and true to the original with a live axle in the rear end, or do you want something that's more modern with an independent rear end suspension? I mean, there's a lot of things you need to take into consideration when you're looking at buying a Cobra or building one. So while that's a lot of information to digest, and we're still just scratching the surface on this topic, I hope you found this information useful and helpful, and we'll be doing future videos on this as well. And as always, if you did, go ahead and hit that like button, give us a thumbs up. And if you want to be kept up to date on future uploads, go ahead and smash that subscribe button down below. And don't forget to ring the notification bell as well, so that way YouTube notifies you of all the videos that I upload in the future. And as always, I will see you the next video.